Welcome to the Mystical Musings with Friends podcast. Join us in these fun, consciousness-expanding episodes hosted by myself, Kimberley Leite, where we discuss the world of the mystical and how this world can enhance your life experience, along with spiritual teachers and leaders from around the world. Join us as we explore subjects including the ascension and oneness teachings, law of attraction, channeling, spiritual healing, psychic explorations, and various other journeys within the mystical, esoteric, and metaphysical realms. It is a journey behind the veil of our reality, and it's a journey of awakening to the powerful being that you truly are.
Hi everyone, my name is Kimberley and welcome to the next episode of Mystical Musings with Friends. I am your host and today we have our lovely friend Isabelle joining us today. Hi Isabelle.
Hello.
So those of you would be familiar with Isabelle, those of you who follow Beings of the Light, and she was also a guest on our previous podcast episode. So she is also a channel and she is a quantum hypnosis. So today I want to explore exactly what is channeling. So some of you are familiar with channeling, especially those of you who follow our work. But what is it really? So channeling can have some misconceptions. And so today, just want to discuss about it. So Isabelle, what's your experience of channeling and how do you perceive channeling to be?
Well, the one thing that I want everyone to understand is you channel all day long, believe it or not, because you attract your thoughts. And when I first uncovered that, I was just like, really? Because it feels like I create my thoughts and it feels like I manufacture my thoughts. And if you've ever written anything, that is channeling. So if you've written a story, that is channeling. And there are a lot of people are like, oh, but you channel non-physical entities, or aliens or, goddesses or, or even source, right? That is, you all have the ability. It's just you have to raise your vibration and you have to open your beliefs and you have to allow the information. So this was Wendy Kennedy, who channels the Octurians, and she channels somebody else too, but she said it was like hearing her own voice in her head, but not her words. So sort of like if you're reading a book and you read a book out loud, it sounds like me, but I didn't write those words, right? So that is when I channel non-physical entities, and I'm aware of that, it sounds like me in my head, but I know those aren't my words. And so that's what it feels like to me. Kimberley, what does it feel like to you?
Yes, well, there are different types of channeling. So that's actually one thing a lot of people don't realize is that everyone does have the ability to channel. You may want to call this intuitive channeling. So it could be just in a conversation when you're fully conscious, having a conversation with somebody, and all of a sudden you're talking to someone and these words come out like, wow, that was pretty, inspired. Where that come from? That's channeling. You have an inspired thought comes to you. That's channeling. It's your spirit guide. Well, in higher perspective of one, is actually you guiding you, of course, and we'll go into that a little bit later. But there are different types of channeling, and for me, it has been a little bit of a journey. So as I moved from perceptions of duality to oneness, my experience of channeling also shifted. So when I first started, of course, I didn't know I could channel before, because as some of you might know my background, I'm also a counsellor. And in the counselling modality of person-centered, you are meant to be there and just connect and be present with your client. And they say that, you go blank, you have a clean slate, and whatever information comes through, they say, you're just accessing, your brain and your subconscious. But when I was doing sessions with people, I realized, hang on, I didn't learn that for my studies. And I'm there being present, like a clean slate. I'm being present with my clients, and I'm like, that's interesting. This flow just comes out, and it's information that I don't know. As Kimberley, I don't remember learning that. And I didn't realize at the time, but that was channeling. I've had some experiences as well, quite some years ago, when I was actually back in the day when I was a beauty therapist many years ago. That's how I discovered I could actually channel. Yes, I was actually doing a massage, and I was intuitively, I felt guided to connect to the energy. This is actually when I discovered I could do Reiki as well. And I had all these I saw these visions of me, like in ancient Egypt, and I could shake my head, and I was like, I could feel the beads in my hair. And this happened for a period of a week. And then I was like, this is very interesting. And it got quite strong, and it felt like I wasn't actually me. Like I had to literally look in the mirror, and I felt this kind of persona change. And I didn't realize at the time, but that was my very first experience of trance channeling, which is what I do now. So it's basically, I'm still in the observer mode. I mean, it's different types of channeling. I'm still in the background, but the beings now kind of comes through my essence. They're actually become one with me, and they talk out of me. So it's not me relaying information. It is like, for instance, like conscious channeling. It's a type of trance channeling that I know you do, Isabelle. For instance, like Abraham Hicks do, like Bashar, and a few other famous ones that you might know of. So when I started to intentionally channel, because of my state of frequency, I used to be able to see the beings kind of in front of me. And it kind of, in my perception, because I was at that time still attached to duality in a way, I kind of perceived that these beings, these entities, like, angels, goddesses, and so forth, were kind of external to me. So because of that, they came across in that way to match my belief systems, you see, because all beings are multidimensional, and they assist us with our frequency, the dimension that we reside in. They honor that for us, but they are actually us. So it depends on if you're attached to duality, which means you see separateness. So you see me and Isabelle are separate, me and the angel are separate. Or if you see oneness, where if you recognize that me and Isabelle are one, me and you are one, the angels and the goddesses and all that is us. If you start to recognize this and remember this for yourself and align to that truth, your experience of channeling is different. So because of that, and I think a lot of channels also experience this, where you might start off having a very strong experience. So you might be able to actually, depending on your abilities, of course, you might be able to actually see them with the third eye, or you experience them in different ways, and then you kind of bring them into your being. And that's how I started. So first off, I was automatic writing. So I was guided to, to journal, and then just quiet my mind. And then I was able to write like this. And it started with random words, and then sentences, and then it went to paragraphs. And I think it was literally after doing that, maybe the fourth time after I did some Reiki, I saw, Archangel Michael sitting in front of me. I was like, whoa, okay. And, I've had experience with the angels all my life, but not in this vivid, intense way. I just could always see a sense of energy and feel the energy, but I couldn't really see a physical, like what we call as a physical form of an appearance. And I sensed Archangel coming to me, kissing my forehead, and it's a lot of interesting experience that happened. And how I started channeling that way is that I would then automatic writing. So they would stand there and I would, write the message. And then I felt comfortable and I was guided to allow them to come within me and speak through me. So you call this trance channeling, but there are different types of trance channeling, and some people actually fully leave. So, you know, their eyes might be closed and they, you know, go to another dimension and they don't remember any of the session. So my experience is that I do trance, but I'm still sort of in the background there, because we're all one, and I recognize that we are one. So we don't actually have to go anywhere. We don't have to allow ourselves to go out of our bodies and they come in, because we are one. So we can do both instantaneously, right? So that's how I do it. So in my current experience of channeling, because I recognize they are one, I just, you know, do my intentions and they come through me and speak out of me. And what's very interesting is, you know, I am the observer. So me as Kimberley, I'm sort of in the background. Sometimes I'm conscious of it, of what they're saying. Sometimes I'm not. And they actually take over my body in a way. So my expressions might change, the personality might change. And it's, yeah, sometimes, you know, like one of the beings like Lakeshma, who I bring forth regularly, she's got a sense of humor, so that comes through, like their personalities come through. And I could feel it within my body. So I can feel the energy shift within my body. So when I first started doing it, I could really feel them when I started channeling. And then when they kind of left me, but they didn't really leave me, I just came into my fully conscious awareness. But now, because I've integrated more oneness, I feel them more when they kind of exit, I guess. When me as Kimberley becomes fully conscious, I feel that energy shift within me and I feel completely high of energy. So I personally feel like an energy shift. And when I channel, because of my senses, I can actually still visually see them within me. So if I turn my head, they're turning their head. But that's just how I channel. A lot of people don't have any visual indications. A lot of people don't feel the energy. They might just have the words. So there are many different types of channeling. But like automatic writing is one that is quite common. So whenever you're in the creative process, you know, writing a poem, whenever you're writing a creative story, where do you think that flow comes from? You might know it at the time, but that is actually a form of channeling. Any form of inspiration is actually a form of channeling. And a lot of people, you know, a lot of spiritual teachers and leaders around the world, you may see them as someone that's very inspired and always having this wisdom, but whether they know it or not, they are channeling also. It's just that, for instance, me and Isabelle, a lot of other people recognize what we are doing, because we recognize that this isn't, it is us from a oneness perspective, but the information is not something we consciously know. And it's interesting, I don't know about you, Isabelle, that when you channel, because you're in the observer mode, aren't you, when you channel as well? Is it interesting sometimes if you're there and you're like, things come out of your mouth and you're like, wow, and you kind of surprise yourself, but you have no control of it. This information comes through you in the background, wow, that is, you know, so enlightened. Have you had any experiences of, you know, when you channel and you're
yes? So
surprised?
I'm very grateful that I feel them. Like I feel them in my heart center, or I'll feel tingling in my head or underneath my chin. So I'll feel their energy, and each entity, I would say, has a signature energy. So Thoth is really intense, really intense. And Michael, Archangel Michael, is like a helmet. And like I'm flying in a plane, it's like this air pressure thing. So sometimes I'll feel their energy first, then I'll be like, oh, hey, Michael. Oh, hi, Raphael. You know, like they'll pop in. And when you said, you say something and you're like, oh my gosh, I just said that, because you have no control, a little, you know, it's true. I find it hysterical. They're speaking through me and I'm talking to them in my mind to them, but you can't hear them because you can only hear what they are saying. And I'll be laughing, like they'll say something funny and I'm laughing inside. And then there's like a delay and then they're laughing with me, but I'm already laughing inside. It's like the freakiest, coolest thing. It's like so funny.
Oh, it's so funny. And sometimes they do have a good sense of humor, don't they?
Yes.
When they come through. And it's, you know, like I said, you experience the energy, and a lot of people experience it in different ways. So just because you may not feel the energy or visually see them doesn't mean you're not channeling. Everyone channels. And that's actually an interesting point as well with, the different beings. So for instance, me and Isabelle, we do channel some of the same beings. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of channels out there that may channel the same beings. And what's interesting is that even if you channel the same being, it does not mean it's going to be the exact same information. You know why? Because we are multidimensional beings. And perhaps maybe this is where there has been criticism of channeling, perhaps, or critics, because, from a perspective of duality, yes, you might think, okay, well, if you're channeling non-physical, then every piece of information has to match the same. But we live in a multidimensional reality, and we are all multidimensional beings. So the beings actually come through in accordance to our vibration, our frequency, and this contains our soul contracts and who we are as a person and which dimension we're residing in. So there are many different energetic structures here that allows the beings to come through in unique ways. This is why if you're a channel, even if you channel the same being as someone else, you are highly unique. There is no one else that can channel the same as you, because your frequency is highly unique. Your aspects of many different beings at once. You're living many different lives at once. So when you channel, you're bringing forth, that dimension where your frequency lies. So for instance, if you're in a higher vibration, which means, perhaps you've done a lot of your soul work, your shadow work, and you're in a state more of expressing and living in oneness and love as opposed to fear and duality, then the information that you channel will align to that, because you'll actually attract a being that resides in that dimension. So they honor that. And this goes for people who might automatically have these gifts. There are a lot of channels that are born with this ability. And if you're in a state of fear or haven't done your shadow work, then you'll channel a being. It could be that same being as another person that channels, but it'll match your frequency. So for instance, if you're very attached to duality, of separateness, of wrong and right, then when you channel that dimensional version of that being, they will honor that for you. They will play that role for you, right? So this is why you sometimes see differences. And of course, through our different timelines, obviously a lot of the beings were channeled in what we perceive as past lives. And even then the information was different, because we as a collective, we were at a different frequency, even though civilizations of what you perceive as civilizations of the past, it may perceive to be highly advanced, but we are more advanced now as a frequency, as a collective. So because of that, the beings comes through to match that dimension that we reside in. It just makes it even more interesting, doesn't it, Isabelle?
Yes. And then also, I want to add to that when I channel, they are downloading the information to me. So they are sifting through my brain through words that I can recognize. They download images, and to me, it feels like a translation. So like, even though it's like fluid and it's happening, just channeling, I'm still translating their message. So Kimberley channels Isis. I channel Isis. Isis is going to communicate with me in a way that I can understand her. And Isis is going to communicate in a way that Kimberley can understand her. And it might be the same message, but I'll say it differently because of my filters, my perceptions, my experiences, my vibration, and all of that. But, it's funny. So a common person that a lot of people channel is Jesus or Yeshua. Now, Yeshua works with a lot of my friends, and Kimberley, and Yeshua talks to me. And there's a woman, Tina Spalding, who channels Yeshua. And I actually got a little fearful because her messages from Yeshua were different from the messages I was receiving. And I'm not saying her messages are right or wrong or anything like that. It just, she's receiving different aspects of the message through her filter than I am. And just like somebody describing a movie, you can ask, you know, hey, what did you think of the new Wonder Woman movie? And you'll get 10 different opinions. And we all watched the same movie, right? So channeling, you can take it with a grain of salt. It's not, you don't have to take it literal, you know, just listen for the message. It's always a loving message. It's always around encouragement and insight. But, you know, energy is very fluid. Things change all the time. Vibrations change all the time. If you heard the message, then trust, if you heard it from a channeler, trust that message is for you because you have an inner being and your inner being wanted to have you hear it from Kimberly, or wanted you to hear it from me, or wanted to hear it from another channeler. It does not matter because you are always, always being guided by your inner being and your guide. So if you hear a message, yes, pay attention. Not a big deal. It's okay.
And that's right, isn't it? That everything, all the information that comes to you is for you, even if it's something you don't want to hear. So, and that's another thing with channeling is that, you know, sometimes information that comes through is maybe we wanted certain information to come through and it doesn't come. It's because we're not ready to hear it. If information comes through that we don't want to hear, then it's for us, for our ascension. So they always know for the highest good what information to come through. And I don't know about you, Isabelle, with your processes, but for instance, like when I channel, I make the intention that for whatever information comes through or doesn't come through, it's for that individual's highest good or for all those watching or listening. So because of that, you know, the information that comes through is always for what that person is ready to hear. And because of, we all have soul contracts, sometimes we're not ready to hear certain information, you know, but all the information from a oneness perspective will come from a perspective of love. If you have any information that comes and it appears to be fear-based, then that means that the channel is either attached to duality. They're channeling that being, and that being is coming through in a dimensional existence to match that channel, you see, because they have to be a vibrational match to that channel. Mm-hmm. It might be a lesson for that channel or for that person, you know, watching or listening to it. So, like you said, if it actually, you know, triggers fear within you, then perhaps there was a higher reason for that, and to look at it, not to disregard the message. But in relation to that, with everything, it's what resonates with you. So when you hear channelings or any kind of, you know, psychic information coming through, if you resonate with it, that is actually an indicator that you are remembering it as truth. That's actually what resonance is. So whenever you have that, even if you might not quite understand it, but you resonate with it, that means that you know that it is truth within you. And of course, it might be expressed in different ways because, like you said, it comes through our filter also. And it depends on the types of channeling you're doing, of course. But when you channel, it's not just a vibration. Like you're right, you are translating it. So it has to come through in my language as English, for instance. So ISIS might come through someone else that lives in different countries. It has to come through in that language. And this is why you might see, like, I don't know, like with you, Isabelle, but like for me, I channel like many different beings, and their language is not changed that much because it's coming through my language, right? So just because you're channeling another being doesn't have to be like they're using a whole different type of, you know, words or terminologies, because it's coming through me. So it is a translation process is also happening as well. But yeah, so with that, duality and oneness, right? So a lot of people that see duality, I mean, we're still attached to duality, right? We're transcending it now into oneness remembrance, because who we truly are is one. So all the different beings that you see as external to us, even our highest selves, me and Isabelle, it could be, you know, the angels, the goddesses, so many different beings you can channel. Can be the elements, you know, the elemental kingdom, you know, you can actually channel nature, trees and birds, all wonderful things, even ET. There's so many things you can channel. Everything with a life force energy you can channel, right? But as you go through your journey, it's about recognizing that these are all you. So even the beings of the light that I channel also makes this point that they coming through as external through me because it matches our belief system, and it's because that's what we're ready to hear and to handle. Because it's coming through a perceived external force, we can more easily comprehend that information, right? Because we might not see ourselves as worthy for it to come through us. And it's because of the dimension that we as a collective are in at the moment. We're in high perspective, we are oneness, but we're still attached to duality. But in high truth, all the beings that you see channeled in the world are actually all aspects of us. So all the angels or the goddesses, even what you perceive to be evil energies, which we can go into that at the moment, that, you know, all beings are source. They're aspects of source. And if there is a being out there that you perceive to be fear-based, they're only playing a role for you. They were actually truly love-based, for all is one. So as you do your inner work, your soul work, as you work on your limiting beliefs and your fears and your perceptions of duality, you'll be able to remember this for yourself, and you'll be able to channel more easily. It might be different, but all you'll need to do is go within and connect, and they are there. This is why everyone can channel, because all the wisdom in all the world and all the universe is within you. You are source manifested. Because you are source manifested, how can you not channel? It may not be in a overt way like me and Isabelle are doing, but this is because of our soul contracts and our life purpose, what we came, you know, to come through on earth to do. So you, those of you watching or listening to this, maybe have chosen to channel in different ways. You know, anytime you do any creativity, when you're in flow, you're actually, you're being source in action. You are allowing that flow to come through you. And it's whenever you receive it, like you said before, Isabelle, whenever you have a thought come to you, it's attracted to you. And that attraction is actually your, what you call as spirit guides. They are already within you. You call them your higher self, your inner being. So it just depends on how you perceive duality and oneness. You can perceive them to be all your external spirit guides, but in high truth, they are all you. And they are all guiding you every step of the way. And it depends on your vibration, whether you are able to tap into that. This is why when you are in a good feeling place, you are able to receive inspiration more readily.
Yeah, and I think if you, for the people who are listening to this who want to try to channel, you know, one of the things that Kimberley did, she taught me, she said, you know, meditate and then ask to speak to a being of light. Because if you're in duality, that could be a good step. I asked to speak to my inner being. I wanted to speak to my inner being or my guide, right? And Isis came through. And I remember, you know, taking a notepad, going out for lunch at work, and I sat in my car and I put bilateral beats in my car, and I felt my pineal gland or the third eye awakening, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel the pressure. This is so cool. And I tried to like remain calm, because I knew if I remained calm, I could hear. And then I heard, hello, my child. And I wrote it down. And that's how I did automatic writing. I just started to write, and it is, anytime you do something for the first time, it feels weird.
Oh, yeah.
It always feels weird, right? But when you try to do automatic writing, when you meditate and just say hello and see if you hear anything, and then you're like, oh, did I make that up? Right? That's normal. These doubts and fears are normal. But, I hope this, conversation with, Kimberley and I inspires you that, just try it. Who cares? If you hear something, you hear something. If you don't, you don't. Whatever. Try it again. Try it every day. Doesn't matter how long it takes.
And that's the thing, isn't it, Isabelle, is that we are always receiving guidance, but we disregard it. Especially some of you who may not be, sensitive or conscious to know that you're actually channeling. A lot of the time you receive the guidance, it's actually in your voice. So you think it's your imagination, you receive, oh, I think I need to go to the coffee shop. I feel inspired to go to the coffee shop. And they're like, oh, it's a silly thought. But that was guidance. And as you get used to following this guidance, you will find that it will lead to each step into revealing your life purpose. And because if you receive, for instance, the guidance, oh, I feel inspired to go to the coffee shop, perhaps you are going to meet someone there. It's about trusting it. And you'll find, I don't know about you, Isabelle, but when you start to trust the guidance and act on the guidance, you'll find you'll be able to tap into even more guidance. It's like the universe saying, oh, now you're listening to us. Now you're understanding us. Now you're ready for more. So we'll give you more.
It's so true. And, I use this analogy a lot. So everyone is a psychic. Everyone can channel. There are gaps of understanding and gaps of your beliefs. Simple as that. But when you learned how to write and you held a pencil for the first time, you might have been 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, doesn't matter. But when you held that pencil, it was awkward. And then the first thing that, you led up before that school, your parents probably gave you ABC books. And you had these little baby books with the letter A, B, C, D, and images and pictures, because you were learning how to identify what a doggy looked like, and D is for dog and little things, right? And then you held the pencil. So before that, you weren't writing, but you were learning all about the alphabet, right? Then you had the pencil, and the first thing you really learned how to write was your name. You didn't write a novel. You didn't even write an essay. No, you wrote your name. And then you practiced your name, and then you wrote a sentence. I like my dog. I went to school. And then you wrote a paragraph, and it built over time. And that is what channeling is like. You have to start somewhere. So start. Cut it out. You're listening to this podcast. You're interested in this. You're almost there. So just start. Try to write your name. It's okay. You don't have to get it perfect. You can make an upside down D. It's okay. But just meditate, bring a book, journal, and then say, I would like to speak to a being of light. I would like to speak to my inner guide. I would like to speak to my spirit guide, whatever makes you comfortable. And then say hi. Yeah, I want you to say hi out loud. Yes, I do. And then wait, breathe, and see what you hear. Okay, So I hope that really encouraged you guys to do this and to play.
Thanks for that exercise. Yeah, that's a good one. I know when I first started to channel, I actually received a message from my friend who's a medium, and she received a message to do an exercise, and I didn't realize it at the time, but that message she received was for me to activate my channeling abilities in my conscious awareness. I knew, I was already channeling, but this made me conscious of it. And, when you do this exercise that Isabelle said, perhaps get in a spot where you feel very relaxed, where you can be in a state of joy. Like for me, I sat on the beach. I just had the journal open and I just make the intention. So that's the thing. When you make intentions, you are actually asking the universe, you asking yourself. Intentions are very, very powerful. They are actually energy imprints. So when you make your intention, you are actually creating energy. So make the intention, what Isabelle expressed here, and just make the intention to receive a message from one of your spirit guides or your higher self. They're all you anyway. It just depends how you are attached to duality and oneness perceptions. And it might be like, for me, when I started, it was just a few random words, and then it came to a random sentence, and it formed a paragraph. So it's probably the best way to start. So just try it. And when you do your meditations, of course that really helps, because what happens is that your meditation helps to be more in the present moment. So with channeling, we're always receiving guidance, right? But because we're not in the present moment, we're thinking about this, thinking about that, we're not receiving the guidance, or we might get it and disregard it. So meditation really helps you to be in the present moment. So when you receive guidance, when you receive a thought, inspiration, or it can be very direct guidance, you'll know that it is guidance, and you'll know it is for you. And also it helps to be able to be in a place where you can manage your emotions. And this is why meditation is also very powerful, because it's okay to have emotions. We're emotional beings, but it's about when you have that emotion, if it's a fear-based or a sad-based emotion, is to be able to recognize it, and that is attributed to a belief system. So if you are always dwelling in fear emotion, what happens is that you're not as tapped into the guidance, to your inner being, right? So as you work on this, because we're all doing the work, right? Even me and Isabelle, you never stop doing the work, right? We're always working on limiting beliefs. We're always going to be triggered by fear. We're human, right? It's part of the human paradigm. We are going through a great purge at the moment. We're going through the great awakening. So there are many shifts occurring. So I know at the moment, a lot of people are experiencing more fear-based emotions than normal. That's just part of our shift. But who we are is source manifested. So you have the power to be in a place of joy. You might not be able to feel joy, but when you do your meditations or just during the day, think of something that brings you joy. If it's even better if you can engage in it, right? Because that will also assist you and activate more of the guidance. Because when you do something that's joyous and that's fun, your vibration increases. It means you're able to more easily access the guidance. So before you're doing this exercise, when you meditate, think of something positive. Think of something that brings you joy, or be in a place that brings you joy. And then be still and make the intention, and you'll find that guidance will come a lot more easily for you. But there are a lot of fun, exercises you can do. And, it's all in divine time, A lot of us on this journey, of course, those of you watching this, listening to this, you're here for a reason, and obviously you're exploring such, psychic, metaphysical explorations, right? So obviously you're starting to remember for yourself who you truly are. And a lot of the time we judge ourselves, right? We think, okay, you judge your journey if you're doing all your inner work, you're doing like psychic development exercises, but you're not where you want to be. But there is a reason for it, right? It's part of your soul contracts. So sometimes abilities come on certain times in accordance to those soul contracts. That's why you can't compare yourself with anybody. Me and Isabelle, we're supposed to do this. This is one part of our life purpose. So this is why it's coming through us in an intense way, for instance. But doesn't mean you cannot channel. It's just maybe you're channeling it in different ways. You know, those of you who are artists out there, that's a perfect example of channeling. You're in the flow, this creativity is flowing through you. That is channeling. Where do you think that inspiration comes from? It's all channeling. You know, when you read a book and you're like, wow, what an imagination this author has. Where do you think that author got that information? They're channeling information. So there are many different ways that you're channeling, you just don't realize it. And also, and I've also had this experience and I've been able to pick up on it, is that sometimes you're talking to someone and they give you an inspired piece of information and you're like, whoa, hang on, I knew that was for me, that was guidance. And you have, like I've had it, I had a sense that they were working through that person to give me a message. So even that person is not even aware that they are channeling, but I know that what they were speaking was perfectly for me, for my highest good. So you see, those channeling can be expressed in so many different ways. And it's that being in the present moment. And these beings who we are, because we are all one, we're all connected, all our highest selves are connected, right? So we're all assisting each other, playing the game here. So if there is something that you need to hear and there's a message there, it'll come to you. If you are temporarily blocked off from receiving this direct guidance, then maybe a friend will come to you and say the right words that are needed. You see? They all will work through wonderful, magical ways. Perhaps it's a song. Have you heard a song and then the lyrics was exactly what you needed to hear? What if you could have been watching a TV and there was a theme on a TV show? You see, they communicate in so many different ways. But you have all that wisdom within you. It's just that we as a human collective tend to not see ourselves as worthy. You know, when I started having all these abilities, I questioned it. I was a teenager. I was around, about 16 years old or so. And I started to experience angels and I could feel the love. I remember crying this divine love and I was like, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Who am I? I'm not like this church person. I'm not, you know, and I always questioned my worthiness because I didn't see myself as special. And this can be common depending on our conditioning. You might see, especially like, for instance, beings like Yeshua and Jesus. It depends how attached you are to conditionings of these beings in our society. Like, you know, some of you might, like, say, even worship Jesus or other beings in different religions, but then to communicate with them might be like, oh, I'm not worthy of that, but you are, because they are us, right? You all have the ability. So now is time of great awakening, and a lot of these abilities are being awakened within us, especially those of you watching or listening to this. You'll find that they're really being activated within you now. It's just you need to trust yourself and believe in yourself that you are worthy, you are source. You don't have to come from this background, you know, like an everyday person can channel, right? You don't have to be perceived to be special in society to channel, come from this spiritual background or religious background or whatever, you know. Everyone has the ability to channel. It's to do with your soul contracts. And those of you watching or listening to this, you are a light worker. You would not be watching or listening to this otherwise. So there is something even in this for you. And I hope this assists you in activating more of the remembrance and your own abilities. And, you know, be creative where, you know, the beings of the light always say that when you're being creative, you're activating the God particle within you. You are being source manifested in action. So be creative, use your imagination, you know. Also, another thing with imagination is that we think imagination is make-believe. It is not. It is accessing another dimension. There was a lot of things that we do not fully understand in our human comprehension. You know, and the sciences, you know, they are starting to catch up. I know, Isabelle, this is your field, isn't it? The sciences
yes.
of all this. So, you know, to what truly is going on, our modern science is kind of behind in this. And, you know, Isabelle, along with others, are on the forefront of bridging the two together. What are your experiences in this, Isabelle, the bridging of the you know, the channeling and the whole science behind it?
Yeah, so science has determined that thoughts are energy. Like they understand that. Artificial intelligence, they play in that realm, but they've also put electrodes on humans and put them through the fMRI machine, and the person will think of a tree, and the tree will, they'll take an algorithm and they'll search the internet and they'll put the image of the tree on the computer. And so they're getting very smart. They can, somebody can actually dream and they'll see the dream on the computer. They can translate the electrical pulses from that human and transcribe it to an image. So thought is energy. And, you know, a lot of people kind of get like freaked out, like on cell phones and electromagnetic fields. And, you know, you don't see, when you listen to the radio, you don't see the words in front of you, right? But the radio is a signal, right? And thoughts are a signal. The radio is a signal, and then we receive it in a device that transcribes it into sound that sounds like a song. It's just radio waves, guys. This voice, radio waves. You know, video. The science behind it is really cool. How, you know, the telegraph, you put an electric copper wire, and it was called the transatlantic, from the United States to England. And, you know, they dug a trench in the ocean to put a copper wire, and that's where you got your SOS, Morse code. So, you know, that was an electrical pulse going through the wire to be transcribed on the other side. So when you think of channeling, you're just a radio. You're just a receiver. You get signal all the time. You were built for it. You just were not aware. Nothing to be scared around. There are beautiful songs that you can hear, and you can, look, when you channel, even if you don't hear anything, you might feel something. You might feel warmness in your heart. You might be aware that the light looks a little different. You know, you're receiving information, packets of information, maybe in a new way for you, but that's what channeling is. Channeling is just, you're just picking up a channel. You know, it's okay. It's okay. Go ahead.
And, you know, a lot of people might have some, you know, some doubts about, oh, how do I channel, and what's it going to mean if I channel these beings? Are they going to like do something harmful to my being? But understand that they're already us. They're already within us. So the perception of, okay, what if I channel a being and it's not of the light? And what if it, you know, does something to me that I don't want? This is our soul work. So it depends on our frequency. Everyone is playing a role for us. All the beings of the light are oneness. They are us. But they are going to honor our frequency and our soul contracts. So perhaps, you know, I know in my experience, it wasn't really, I had an experience in the past. I think I talked about this on one of the earlier podcasts, when this was many years ago, maybe 20 years ago, and I had experience of what I experienced as an evil entity. But looking back on it, I knew that actually happened to me. I didn't channel within me, but I could like see it. And that was for me to activate my power, because at the time when that happened, I got all this power and I felt like my worthiness increased, because, oh, wow, I must be very powerful that this being is trying to stop me, kind of thing. And that kind of really activated my soul purpose. So obviously at the time, because I was so attached to duality, like evil and good and wrong or right, they were coming through in that way to honor that. But now, of course, now I understand that as I've integrated more of oneness remembrance within me, is that everyone and everything is playing a role for you. And you don't have to be afraid, even if you allow them to come into your consciousness, in your conscious awareness. Like for me, they kind of take over my being. Like, I don't know, those of you who've seen my videos, I can be quite expressive and so forth. And I can feel it. My whole body is like energy, and I'm still in the background. So I guess there is a, if I really wanted to control something, I could always step in, but I allow them because I trust them and because I know that they are me. So part of the process of channeling is to trust that no harm can come to you, and trust that they are actually you. You're just exploring different dimensions of yourself. This is what really channeling is. And, you can get caught up in all the different types of beings, or the hierarchies, and this frequency being and that frequency being. But at the end of the day, we are moving to more oneness remembrance, and understand that they're just playing this game with us because we find it fun. We find it fun to channel different beings because they do have a unique frequency, a personality as such. Like, I don't know about you, Isabelle, but like, I know when I channel different beings, they do, and their personality comes through when I channel. But it's kind of fun because we're still attached in that way. But even the beings of the light say, there'll come to a time when they won't need to come through these external ways, because we'll be ready to remember that they are actually us. So you can right now put all that aside, and it's fun to tap into these unique frequencies and like, I even recognize that they are one and they are me, but I still find it fun to channel them as external beings, even though I know they are oneness, right? Because I find it really joyous to experience their energies, their unique energies. And because, some of you who are doing the channeling the way like me and Isabelle, you might be very sensitive to their energy. So it's really cool to experience the different energy signatures, right, within our being, and to explore that. We're just exploring different frequencies and energies, and all the dimensions, and all that is, everything is actually within you. So if you want to talk to your spirit guide or an angel, make the intention, but go within. They might come to you as an external way, projecting that because you're attached to duality, but recognize that they're already within you. You do not have to gain enlightenment. We are already enlightened beings. We already have these abilities. It's just remembering it for ourselves. It's activating it within us. And it's up to us to let go of the resistance and to increase our sense of self-worth and our sense of power within us. So this is why the soul work is very important in our inner work, our shadow work. It is all there to assist us in letting go of the resistance, to reveal these divine gifts we already have, right? We already have them within us. The beings of the light always say that the people that exist here on earth right now, we are the most advanced beings to be here on earth. Only the most advanced beings are living on earth right now. Even though you might perceive some people to not be awake, they are just as highly as advanced. We are all equally advanced. It's that some people chose to remember who they really are. Everyone is playing a role. You might come across someone who seems unawakened, yet sometimes they say the perfect right thing for you. They are triggering you for a perfect reason, to shine light on limiting belief. So they are your master teachers. Everyone is playing a role here. And it's just a fun game of exploration. So, practice this, channeling them externally in your perception of external. And then practice, tuning into the guidance coming through to other people. It's all around us. But you understand, everything we experience in our reality is within us. And, because we're attached to duality, it's sometimes hard to comprehend that, and we forget. We're in a transition. And this is why, they like to play this role for us, go between duality and oneness. It's an exploration. So just know that you're always loved and that you're always safe. All you need to do, if this interests you and you want to explore channeling a little bit more, just go within, connect to your heart center, and make the intention. And that's all you have to do.
Yes. Well said, Kimberley.
Wonderful. All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to touch on before I finish here today, Isabelle?
No, I think we covered it, and I hope we hear some feedback that they tried.
Yeah, and I encourage you all to do that. You don't have to have this extraordinary experience where you might see them staying in front of you. Know that it's always going to come to you in the way that matches your frequency. But listen to the words. Practice. Just go within. Be present. The more you can be present, you exist in a dimension where you access more of your powerful self. And this is here where you can access the guidance. You're always being guided every step of the way, always receiving messages. But if you're not in the present moment, you do not receive them, right? So practice being in the present moment. And just explore. It's all a big, fun game of exploration here. And, you know, when you channel, obviously when you channel, the information that comes through can be very highly advanced. And this is why it gives you evidence that you're channeling, because it's information that you don't actually have in your human sense, in your human understanding. Even sometimes when I've channeled, I'm like, wow, and I don't quite understand it. I have to watch it a few times to understand the information that came out of me. But the thing is, that information, it might be perceived to be coming through a different being, that they're more enlightened than us, right? But that information, that wisdom is actually already within us. Wherever you a vehicle for you to express that, because we don't see ourselves as worthy of that. So just know that all the wisdom and all that is all within us. If we can believe in ourselves and know that we are worthy of love, we are powerful beings. All right, wonderful. So on that note, we will leave you. Thank you all for watching and listening to this. And Isabelle, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on attractingwisdom.com, on Facebook and Instagram. Just search for Attracting Wisdom. I have some podcasts on Spotify, iTunes. Just do a Google search, guys. Attracting Wisdom.
Wonderful. And guys, if you want more information about me, jump on my website at beingsofthelight.com. I invite you to join my Facebook communities. We've got Beings of the Light with Kimberley community. We have a private group and a public group as well. Of course, Instagram, YouTube channel. I invite you to check out Patreon, where you can access, fun group content, and of course, all the services there on the website. So everybody, I invite you all to join and practice going inwards and connecting to who you truly are. Thank you for joining, Isabelle, and thank you all for watching.
Bye.
Love and light to you all. Farewell.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Mystical Musings with Friends. To find more info about myself and how to reach out to me about this podcast, please see the episode details. Remember, you are never alone on your journey, for you are one with all that is.